Time, it should be really easy, right? You used it your whole life. You eat by it, you sleep by it. I know I will do my hours when I'm doing project by it, and my project managers keep pestering me about it. So it should be fairly simple, but it's not. We as humans are storytelling creatures. We make fairy tales. We tell stories about ourselves. We tell stories about the world we live in. And I like to say that when we're handling time, especially in code, we are trying to pin the old Greek god Kronos to a spreadsheet. And that's why it always goes wrong. That man doesn't like me. Hello, my name is Inge. I am a developer. I'm a backend developer at Bouvet in Haugesund. I'm also a historian, a philosopher, and as you can see here, a licensed forklift driver. And I learned something strange and exciting as a forklift driver. If you have this very heavy, expensive thing on your forklift, and you drive really fast, and then you cut a few corners, you will crash the heavy, expensive thing. And I find this often happens in software. This is an example of this. This is the Three Gorges Dam in, oh God. Sorry, I'm just gonna give myself my speaker notes. They was removed by some reason. Technical difficulties, we call that in the game. This is the Three Gorges Dam. It's in China. It was completed in 2010. And the reason I mention this is because this is a big, heavy thing. China needed power. China always needs power. And they built this thing. And it's glorious. It's glorious for a few reasons. Firstly, it's a big dam. And I'm from Sauda, and if you know Sauda, you know I know dams. Sauda has a lot of dams. That was basically what we did in the holidays. We went up and looked at things like this, but in smaller scales. And they filled it up. And the thing that happened then was quite amazing. The Earth slowed down by 0.06 milliseconds. China built something so huge, so humongous, that it slowed down the Earth's trajectory. You don't know what the clock is, because I don't know what the clock is. Nobody knows what the clock is. So, today I'm going to talk about tools. The tools we as humans, we as developers, and I like to think about humans as developers. Well, developers as humans, maybe. The tools we have made, the tools we made to control time, like this, which is a glass from a boat that controlled the watch. And like this, which is naturally a pile of rock. And also, if you believe some historians, and I tend to do, it could be a calendar. We don't really know. But in my head, this is a calendar. At midsummer, the light will strike through this place and hit into Stonehenge, which tells me that someone at some time in the past went, this is a good idea. We have that, right? We have that when we're coding. This is a good idea. Yes, let's build that. So they built that, and then they probably used it for everything else. But that's a calendar. So we're going to look at calendars, because calendars are important. They're important to me, they're important to you. They're important because calendars control our lives. Especially if you're religious. How many of you know about the first computers? Of course you do, right? The first computers wasn't electrical machines that did calculations. No. The first computers was mathematicians. The word computer means good with math. Good with calculations. This, my dear friends, my dear colleagues, is one of the world's first table lookups. This is 19 years of Easter holidays. The early church had a problem. And the problem was that the internet wasn't invented yet. So to manage that, they used horses and, people running around. And they used the first computers. One of the main jobs for the first computers, if they weren't working for a big company with sales and stuff, was to calculate Easter. And for your painfulness today, this is algorithm. And this is complete maniac. I want to note two things here. That's step 4 and step 5 that mentions the Pascal moon. You might ask me now, Inge, what's a Pascal moon? And I will answer you, I don't know. I do not know. Nobody does. Because the Pascal moon is a religious full moon. For the church, the idea is that you have to have Easter at the same time in all churches. It's the main holiday, after all. And the problem was at the point that the church would just point out a time and then go, yeah, this time will be Easter, good. And then all the farmers could go away for a while. So the Pope and the rulers in, I think, Alexandria went and said, we have to use an algorithm, a formula, to get this done. This is both in the Catholic Church and the Protestant Church and the Eastern Orthodox Church. So all the Christian churches. And you do this thingy. I won't go through it. It's basically a bunch of magical numbers to get to this holiday. So, and this brings us, I feel, rather gallantly to the first calendar. And to go to the first calendar, we will go past Christendom, we'll go far, far back in time, and we will look at this guy. We are now in the year 46 before our counting of time. This is 46 years before they reckon Jesus was born. And the Roman Emperor, that is this marvelous rendering, Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar was Emperor of Rome, and that meant basically all power. If Julius Caesar said something, you would probably do it. He had an army after all. Except, of course, he couldn't control the calendar. The Roman calendar was controlled by the priests, who would, when they got a message from the gods or got a good idea or needed to do some politics, add or remove a month, which breaks havoc with you if you're going to do some politics in this. So Caesar got rather angsty about it. So who did he contact? Mathematicians. Greek one, in fact. And I did some calculations, and I'm not going to ask you if you know this, because of course you do. They made a calendar, and they said a year should have, let's say, 364 days. Make sense? Yeah, good. And every 4th year, we'll just add a day. Easy. And we'll add it at the end of the year. Because, and which means that in the Roman calendar, the end of the year was in which month? Anyone? February. Good. There's candy outside in the buffet lounge. Yes, they added a day in the end of the year, which was February. So if you're in a party, as I often now am, party with the family and stuff, and they ask me, why is October not the 8th month? I go, yeah, that's because we started counting from February, my dear. And you won't get prizes for that. I'm sorry. But fun fact. So he did this, and then he said, well, I made a calendar, so I might as well name it after myself. And that's not good enough, so I will also have a month. So he made July. July is named after Julius Caesar. Of course, also August is named after his nephew. So there we are. If you make a calendar, you can do pretty much what you want. And this was a raging success. Again, because Julius Caesar had an army. And then this guy comes along, and this is Pope Gregory XIII. Because this Julian calendar had a problem, and the problem is 11 minutes and 14 seconds. It overshoots. Which is not much, I know. 11 minutes and 40 seconds is approximately the time I use to get myself a cup of coffee. But after 1500 years, Easter was moving towards the Jewish Pascha. The Jewish Pascha, that's the original Easter, that's the Jewish holiday that celebrates the leaving of Egypt. And the Catholic Church couldn't have that. So when it moved too close, this guy, Pope Gregory XIII, said, right, let's skip approximately 10 days. Why not? And then let's avoid this happening again. So every 400 years, there will be no leap year. So I'm sorry if anybody is born on the 29th of February. So sorry. This is because of him and Julius Caesar. I had a boss once that hated that joke. And again, this was a roaring success, right? This is the new big thing in calendars. This is the Julian calendar 0.20. Or, since you're making a calendar, the Gregorian calendar, because name it after yourself, why don't you? And again, growing success. There's a few holdouts. I will just mention the most important ones, which is the Hirje calendar. If you have a look at the Hirje calendar, I highly recommend it. It's very, very precise. Nearly no missing. It's only used in Iran and Afghanistan. And it's measured time by the moon and not the sun, as we do. The Eastern Orthodox Church still uses the Julian calendar in some form or fashion. The Julian calendar 0.15, I think. And Microsoft Excel. So there we are. We've all looked at Microsoft Excel, done some time, and then got something gibberish out. And this is not about that. When Microsoft was making Excel, they had a dream. They wanted to make the most successful spreadsheet software in the world. But there was a hindrance in this, and the hindrance was Lotus 1, 2, 3. Nobody here remembers Lotus 1, 2, 3. I love you. Lotus 1, 2, 3 had a problem. It had miscalculated the year 1900 as a leap year. And the developers, being developers, had found workarounds around this, right? You did the calculations, you said, it's miscalculation, diddly-dee. So Microsoft, knowing this very well, they knew about this, and they added the miscalculation in because the coders were already there. Which in my mind just means that Excel lives in a time zone completely on its own, and I don't need to work with it anymore. This is splendid. So, before you guys now, as developers, start thinking about making a new spreadsheet software that does count 1900 as a leap year, or indeed a new calendar, let's look at time zones. 7080. In the 7080s, the British is everywhere. You can't go anywhere in the world without meeting a Brit. They also have a big problem. They're constantly getting lost at sea. Because the sea has no landmass, and you can't just go, I know where I am. So I won't go into the nitty-gritty here, but this is Greenwich. It's a little bit west of London, and Greenwich had an idea. What if you just chop the world out in 24 equal parts? And then you could look at your clock and go, well, my clock tells me it's 12 o'clock in London, but my sundial tells me it's 5 o'clock, so I could go to a pub now. It was a genius example of human ingenuity. Going with, if you're 1 degree to the left, you will take away an hour. If you're 1 degree to the right, you add an hour. It's splendid. Except, of course, for the poor guys on the Diomede Islands. The distance here, this distance, is 3.8 kilometers. That's a tiny trip with a boat. The time distance here is 24 hours. You can literally eat breakfast here and look at yesterday. And that's, of course, is because of this, which is the International Date Timeline. Highly entertaining. But because of time, we will also go to Greenland. And Greenland is fun. Greenland is big. Greenland has a big, great time zone. Lives on its own, except in the northeast of Greenland. In the northeast of Greenland, there's a tiny, tiny town. There's about 8 people living there. It's called Danmarkshavn. According to its time zone, it's in the middle of Denmark. And China. China has what we call being time. If you're so lucky to be a part of China, you get China time. In China, time zones are political, except, of course, up here. That's Qiying. In Qiying, they have a secret time zone, which is UTC +6 if you're very interested. Do anyone play golf? Hands in the air? No? No golf? Well, if you did, you could go to Sweden and play golf. This is the green zone in Sweden. And on hole 6, your ball will be in the air, and I swear this is true, for 1 hour and 6 seconds. And you would think that the British, at least the British, got this right. So, during the World War II, the British realized that it was hard to control the use of fuel. So they started ignoring summertime. In 1945, London was on GMT +2. Which means that the poor people in Greenwich is sitting there with their clocks and never reaching their appointments because there are other people have done them and gone away already. So this is what I will call humans with good intentions doing bad things. But we are developers. We don't do bad things. And the reason this talk came to be is that I work as a back-end developer, and I was talking with a front-end developer, and he wanted time in what he called JavaScript format. And I didn't know that C#, which I was working at the time, starts counting from year 0, time 0, which is splendid. Everything else starts counting from the epoch, but not C#. No. So I started looking into it. Do you know that C# lets you play God? What if you do this? This is my own, I think this is one of my few things that will move in this thing. Right now I'm making my own epoch. I'm making it to this day, midnight, because I think this is the most important day in the world. And all time should be counted from this day. Get on with it. There we are. And of course, we will print it to the console, which gives us this. I've just become God. I've just started the time again. Why would I do this? I only know. The epoch, my friends, and this is a problem. When you're using C#, you have to define your time to start at the epoch. If not, you get the message I got. Why is my time in negatives? Why do I get time from 1968? We didn't have oil platforms standing here. Stuff like that. The epoch was defined in 1970s in the Bell Labs, I believe, by some very smart people. And they thought that memory is an expensive thing. So at first, they thought, let's store time in an 8-bit signed integer. And we start in 1970. We are in 1970. This is good. This is well. Nothing will break. And it took a few years and it broke. So they thought, yeah, but that's good. We have 32-bit signed integers now. This is the range of the 32-bit signed integer. And because of that range, we are at this point moving towards what's called the apocalypse. Jazz hands. And the apocalypse, that's basically Y2K on drugs. Because Y2K, easy to work with, everybody knew about this. This is basically Linux, Unix servers sitting somewhere that we're dependent on the web, and they will break. They will break, in fact, 7 seconds past 14 minutes past 3 o'clock at night, the 19th of January 2038. Exactly. That's when we run out of time. And here's the thing. Shit. Okay. Here's the thing. We always knew about this thing. We knew this will happen. So, ladies, gentlemen, and non-binary time travelers of HelloStavanger 2025. If you're still writing code in 2038, I do salute you. Good job. And if not, my integers belong. Your timestamps unsigned and your system never be dependent on time being a positive number. I've been Inge Halvorsen. Thank you.